In this bulletin, level of preparedness not guaranteed. UN calls on support from Fijians. And Ministry fast-tracks COVID pass.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Atera Lendua.
The Ministry of Health at this stage cannot guarantee their level of preparedness if there is a COVID-19 explosion. Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, says no amount of readiness is guaranteed when it comes to COVID-19. Dr. Fong says even the most developed countries have failed to prepare themselves for an outbreak. The PS is once again calling on Fijians to help stop the spread of the virus by following measures announced by the ministry.
When COVID comes in, the actual numbers, once it starts to escalate, the actual numbers escalate exponentially. That's the word, it actually explodes. And no country in the world has ever been able to say, our preparedness plan was never breached.
The United Nations in Fiji is calling on everyone to support the Ministry of Health's effort in vaccinating the targeted population in the country. While many have been forthcoming to get vaccinated, there are others who are hesitant. UN Resident Coordinator Sanaka Samarasina says with the more infectious B1617 variant now in the country, Fijians are urged not to be complacent and get vaccinated as soon as they can.
Everybody who's eligible right now should be rolling up their sleeves and taking the jab, especially those with underlying conditions, those who are most vulnerable, but really every single person in Fiji, citizens and residents alike, as soon as they are able to, they should go out there and get the vaccine.
People were seen crowding at the Ministry of Health's headquarters in Suva this morning, trying to attain a COVID pass. Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, says they are fast-tracking the process. This is the scene outside the headquarters this morning. Despite being advised that passes will be issued for health emergencies and funeral purposes only, people traveling for business purposes are still trying to get their hands on a pass.
Yeah, there is an email account that we'll have to set up to reduce the amount of crowding outside. But, well, I'll have to be very clear, and I try to be very clear in today's presentation. We've given enough time for everybody to move into their homes.
The president of the Methodist Church in Fiji is calling on all Fijians to follow the advice being given by the health ministry in light of the current COVID-19 outbreak. Reverend Ili Bunisuwai says it's crucial for people, regardless of faith or religion, to ensure that they comply with the restrictions in place. Bunisuwai says the health ministry has made it clear that staying home will help stop the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, the Methodist Church will also be in a 2-month chain prayer to show support to the government in the fight against COVID-19.
It is beginning on the 1st of May and end on the 30th of June. So it is a 2-month fast and prayer. And I urge each one of us to adhere to that and let us put our hands together and pray for our nation and pray for each people.
Face masks are one of our biggest assets in the fight against COVID-19, but the Suva City Council has warned of potential environmental threats. Special Administrators Chair Isikeli Tikundondo says on Monday their workers collected dozens of disposable masks from the Nambucolo Creek in Suva. Disposable masks are plastic products that cannot be easily biodegraded. Tikundondo says with the majority of Fijians now wearing face masks, people need to be aware of the proper ways to dispose them.
Which is quite sad is now we have seen, as said yesterday, people are disposing their masks, throwing them around Suva. In fact, yesterday we picked about 30 masks from the Nambucolo Creeks.
The current suspension period of all face-to-face education and training activities at all higher education institutions that came into effect 2 days ago has been extended for another 14 days. The Fiji Higher Education Commission Communication Officer Epineri Rawalai says In an effort to ensure continuity of teaching and learning, they encourage institutions to use virtual as well as online platforms where applicable. However, he says that these institutions must ensure students' safety is not compromised when participating and accessing online learning resources with the non-essential movement directives in place. Rawalai adds the safety of students and staff is paramount and relevant authorities must be consulted should there be any decisions taken.
Students are not to be unfairly disadvantaged because of limited accessibility to online resources. We are also recommending to higher education institutions for arrangement of counseling or other support services that students may access via email, telephones or virtually.
In India, parks have been turned into makeshift crematoriums as the COVID death toll continues to surge. Officially, it stands at more than 200,000, but the real figure is believed to be much higher, and fear is turning into fury as the health system now collapses. Up ahead, champs remain focused. And D-Day for New Zealand rugby. The holder of 4 national records in track and field, Pramesh Prasad, has done it again. Pramesh set a few more records last weekend at the oldest ultra-distance events in Melbourne, Australia. The 47-year-old finished the 100 miles in 20 hours, 43 minutes and 42 seconds. He recorded the fastest 6 hours, covering 52.693 kilometers. In 12 hours, he managed to complete 100.652 kilometers and the fastest 100 kilometers with a time of 11 hours, 49 minutes, 11 seconds to win the Australian Championships. The Suva provincial team is not losing focus on the task ahead as they continue to carry out individual training. Suva will play Nandi in round 3 of the Skipper Provincial Cup tournament once tournament suspensions are lifted. Manager Nemani Tuifangalele says despite these challenging times, the team still realize the task at hand.
I think there will be a lot of restrictions given the atmosphere now and how COVID is actually, make its way back for the second round now in the community. So yes, we will at the same time adhering to all the regulations given. We would love to come back as a community of team to play and prepare ourselves against the stronger Nandi team.
D-Day looms for New Zealand rugby as it looks set to vote on what could be one of the biggest shake-ups to the game in the professional era. A trough of low pressure remains slow-moving over Bonolehu and gradually moving southeastwards. Associated cloud and rain continues to affect the northern and eastern parts of the group. That's FBC News now. Join us again for our 1-hour major bulletin at 7 p.m. And be sure to download our FBC app to access the latest in news and sports and live radio broadcasts from any of our 6 FBC radio stations. You stay safe. Good afternoon.